What's up, everyone? Demetrios Lopez back again. I just wanted to make another quick video reacting to some of the controversy around James Gunn's most recent comments about the Superman film, specifically this piece that was published. And it was the London Times that ran the piece, but I want to say it got blown up by Variety taking some pieces from the piece. This is James Gunn's comment about Superman being an immigrant film. Superman being an immigrant, it's about the immigrant experience, it's about the American experience, it's about kindness. Yeah, some jerks are not gonna like that, but screw them. I don't know the exact quote right off the top of my head. But again, if you're following the Superman controversy, and certainly if you're listening to me now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So look, I've really got just a couple things to say about the comments themselves. One, and probably the best take I've heard on this online so far, is that of Mr. H from Mr. H's Reviews. So shout out to him and his channel. He talked about Superman. Yes, Superman is an immigrant, but he's the right kind of immigrant. He's the kind of immigrant that comes and immediately assimilates to his new home culture. He's the kind of immigrant that more embodies the values and the ethics of the home culture than even the native-born population. He's really the first person I've heard say that. And to me, the only thing wrong with what he said is he didn't quite go far enough. Superman isn't quite an immigrant, and we would think of the traditional definition of an immigrant. More so, he is a refugee. Now, a lot of this language is very heavily politically charged nowadays. Again, with the Trump administration, the restrictions on immigration, the shutting down the border, the ICE raids to try to get illegal immigrants back to wherever they came from. So obviously, this is going to get a lot of play. But I just would say, in the English language, there's a word immigrant and there's a word refugee. While they are similar, they have some key differences, and I think it's really important to keep those differences straight. Superman isn't coming to America, as James Gunn said, looking for a better life. His planet was destroyed. He had no choice. He's a refugee. He can't go anywhere else. The other thing I would say is, if Superman is, let's just go with this framing for a second. If Superman is an illegal immigrant, and if we're going to say that he is a good illegal immigrant, and I think we would all universally agree with that, well, what does that say about Zod? What does that say about Brainiac? What does that say about Darkseid? This is something else that people have been humming at online. Look, in the real world, not every immigrant's good. Not every immigrant is bad either. In the case of some of these DC characters, these Superman villains, you have Zod that wants to conquer. You have Brainiac that effectively wants to conquer too, albeit in a different way, and Darkseid that wants to completely control. There's that great line from the Snyder Cut of Justice League, "All of existence shall be mine." That is the essence of the Darkseid character. All that to say, both within the context of the film, and we don't know exactly how this is going to play out, and more broadly in the political conversation that we're having right now about immigration. Look, no matter how conservative you are, no matter how, I hate to say anti-immigration, but I guess anti-immigration, that's the best framing I can use right now, you think you might be. I think you have to admit there's a kind of immigrant out there that we would love to have in America, in the UK, in the West. Someone that's going to come over here, someone that's going to work hard, someone that's going to bust their ass, someone that's going to learn the language, someone that is going to be more American than the Americans, or more Brit than the British. And I think we all probably know someone like that. I mean, if we're actually going out there and interacting with people in the real world. On the other hand, we certainly, if we don't know them personally, we've heard of immigrants that aren't here with the best of intentions, that aren't here for the right reasons. And no matter how liberal, left-wing you think you are, simple logic dictates you have to say that there are some bad immigrants out there. There are some immigrants that when they come into the country, they do not assimilate well. They bring their values, which are lesser values. I mean, again, some of this bullshit about how all cultures are created equal, this is just factually untrue. There's a lot of reasons I could go into that. Some cultures are better than others. Spoiler alert, the West is the best culture that our species has produced so far. Okay, full stop. All that to say, there are good immigrants and there are bad immigrants. And if, no matter how conservative you are, you should be able to admit that there are good immigrants out there that we want. No matter how liberal you are, you should be able to admit that there are bad immigrants out there that we don't want. Now, again, this is something that even in other iterations of Superman, for those that have either read the comics or seen the animation film, there was Justice League, Gods and Monsters, that's what it was, Justice League, Gods and Monsters, where they play with the Superman story a little bit there too. He's not American. First off, his father is Zod, not Jor-El. Secondly, he crash lands in Mexico, not in Kansas, and he's brought over to the U.S. through some coyotes, so on and so forth. All that to say, even in scenarios where Superman Red Sun, right, where he crash lands in Russia and becomes part of the Soviet Union machine, the communist machine. These are different iterations on Superman and different iterations on Superman's immigrant experience, right? But even in those scenarios, in Gods and Monsters and in both Red Sun, Superman, the character of Superman is the same. He embodies the values of the host culture, whatever that host culture is. He maintains his character as Superman, even if he is doing some bad shit, and he does some bad shit in both those storylines. The second thing I want to say about this, again, Zack Snyder is the blueprint. Who has done this better than Zack Snyder in Man of Steel? There's that beautiful line where Superman crashes into the Kryptonian ship, Zod's about to fire and blow up this whole plan that they have of sending the Kryptonians back to the Phantom Zone, and Zod stops him. Superman's about to destroy the ship, and Zod says, listen, stop. If you do this, you will destroy Krypton. And Superman says Krypton had its chance. Effectively saying, as the immigrant, I choose my new culture, my home culture, my actual home, my adopted parents over my real parents. And again, he does that in a very torn way. You can tell there's this moment where he thinks about it, like he has to think twice about it. Going back to the very controversial scene where he snaps Zod's neck, you can tell that he doesn't want to do that. He is driven to do that. It breaks him. It torments him that he has to do that, to kill the last of his own species. All that to say, the real sort of war that's inside the immigrant soul, to not lose who you are and not forget where you came from, and yet to go and to be part of the new world and to succeed in the new world. I mean, you see all that in Man of Steel. And so I can't imagine how James Gunn making ass jokes or whatever kind of bullshit slapstick comedy he's adding is going to make that any better. Okay, let me just say a couple other things real quick. So this is really blown up. I'm already hearing a lot of people come to James Gunn's defense, and they're not really the usual suspects. People like Midnight's Edge, Chris Gore on Film Threats was talking about this to some degree, saying that, well, this article's getting overplayed, it's getting blown out of proportion. And look, I don't know. I haven't read the article and I haven't seen the movie, so maybe it is. Here's what I would say. Even if these people are right, and what they're basically saying is the liberal media is sort of out to get, they're out to shipwreck and torpedo this movie. Listen, man, I've got an ex-wife, all right? If someone is out to get you, you know what you do, or you know what you don't do? You don't give them ammunition. You don't put yourself in a position to get you. All James Gunn had to do was say, look, I mean, this is about the American experience. He can even say it's about the immigrant experience. I'll let that pass. But the movie is not political. That's all he had to do. And he didn't do it. And now it's almost like we're kind of in this bizarro world where people are expecting a pro-American, dare I say even maybe a conservative take, a throwback Superman take from this new Superman film. I think people, again, are going to be very disappointed. Now, again, at this point, there have already been some early reactions. The review embargo lifts in hours, in hours, and I want to say 8 hours from when I'm recording this video. I am sure there's people that are going to love it, and we're already hearing that some people have really loved it, but we've also heard that a lot of people really hate it. I will maintain my position. I think this film is just too damn silly for a Superman film to succeed on a big blockbuster level. That being said, we'll wait and see. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first one on July 12th to make a video saying, hey, listen, everyone else had their, these people that said this was going to be great had their finger on the pulse of the general public in a way that I did not. They were right and I were wrong. But look, as of right now, I'm going to stand by my opinion. I'm not seeing anything that's going to change my mind. At best, this movie is going to be very polarizing. But again, I would just say this. If you're expecting something conservative or even mildly friendly to America from James Gunn, I think you're going to be disappointed. And listen, just because something is woke, I've said this many times, doesn't mean it's bad. But on the other end, just because it's not woke doesn't mean that it's good. And I feel like people are trying to give this film credit for not having a non-gender conforming, non-binary woman of color, but also still Superman because women can be men. Like, because it's not going that extreme, people are wanting to praise this film. And I think that's a gross mistake. The other thing I would just say is, going back to my previous point about how our general audience is going to receive this. Look, even if the people defending Gunn right now, even if you're right, look, the damage has already been done. Ben Shapiro is making videos about this story in regards to the Superman movie. Douglas Murray is talking about the Superman movie. Douglas Murray should be and spends most of his time talking about the genocide in Israel. Not the genocide in Gaza, because there's no genocide in Gaza, but the genocide in Israel where Hamas and Islamic extremists want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, right? He should not be talking about a Superman movie. And the fact that he is doing this is kind of confirmation to me, at least, that my sort of worlds are colliding. It's not just echo chamber, nerdy fanboy, Snyder bro culture. Like, this is bleeding out. If Douglas Murray has some qualms with this Superman film, you better believe people in the general population are hearing things that they don't like. And if you don't think this is going to have some effect on the box office, I think you're fooling yourself. But listen, time will tell. We're at this point 3 days out from the release. So all that to say, if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the like button. Let me know your comments. Again, if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. Again, I'm an author myself. If you love Zack Snyder's Snake on He-Man, or Superman, and you love He-Man, you might want to check out my fiction work. Sigma Book 1, Thumos Rising is available now. You can click on the link below, or you can just type Thumos Rising, search that, and Amazon. Thank you so much, and I'll probably see you again right after the film is released. Peace.